Hey all, so week 3 of Eternity of Pain is here with this blade, and I used Massacre for my first solo. I think he's a very good option, but he also shows some of the things that you're going to want to watch in any of your others. But on some level, anyone can do this fight, so let's go over what the challenge is. First off, we have Surge Protector. This just means that if you hit him a bunch on the way to his special, it's not going to cost him any power, and you're going to immediately have to dodge another one, which is a bit of a problem because all of his specials are unblockable, and if you let him back you up, then the special 2 being unblockable is functionally undexable. I'm sure there are some people who can do it, but I am not among them. And most of the champions that fit the objectives are not going to be great at that either, so you just have to be aware of that. You can get around it if you land your own special, because then that is going to do direct damage to him based on those charges and remove them, and then the next special is just going to cost the normal amount of power. That works out really nicely, but that brings us to the next series of nodes here, which is Plagued Mind. It is harder to throw your specials on a regular basis to knock him down with them when your power is being drained periodically. So you kind of have to get around that. Additionally, there's this destructive feedback where it can be a little harder to build to your own specials if you are having to dex his, and for a good chunk of the fight, it's not safe to block. Because the way this works, it's a lot of text, but it just boils down to during X period of time when this shield is lit up, you do no damage to him, it's all stored, and then provided you do not get hit, full on or on block, until the shield completely goes away, then he takes all of the damage. But if you even block a hit, then all of the damage he's taken up until that point is transferred to you, and this includes damage over time, so be very careful with this. And then these last few nodes basically just boil down to no, really don't get hit. That's kind of what the Power Drain one says. And then Power Lapse is just limiting who you can use to deal with him. Like, you can power lock him, but eventually drain, burn, steal effects are going to stop working. And because this is a big opponent with a lot of health, that means you probably don't want to rely on those. And of course, the objectives for this particular week are Mercenary, Avengers, and for Paragon's Dimensional Beings. I went over this in a fair amount of depth on my stream today, and I will link that with a timestamp in the description of this video. I'll also go over it a bit at the end, but for now we're just going to focus on this solo, which is the Mercenary one with Massacre. So, I started recording this in different chunks, and my attempts added up to about an hour. I'll be perfectly honest with that. Part of that is that I am still not fully recovered from COVID, and so sometimes I was just like a little bit off, and then I would miss a special 1 dex, and the bleeds would take me down from 100% to 0, something along those lines. Or I've definitely been having input issues in this fight. Watch for those, try not to get too tilted. But the basic strategy here you're seeing involves hitting his block a lot, making sure we don't block, because remember, that's when destructive feedback punishes us. And we're also not hitting him when he's not blocking that much, because that builds up those surge charges, right? But a really important thing about Massacre is that in addition to igniting when he hits block a lot, while he's ignited, he will also build power, even without landing hits. And so that is a huge benefit of Massacre to this, because it allows you to build up to a special more easily and throw it like this and do a real chunk of damage. He also just has good damage over time that does not rely on specials, and so even if you are not able to land your own special, just getting those incinerates in and then having your power drained and just dexing more special ones works out really well for you. Like I said, the surge charges in this fight mean that if you're not careful, you can end up having to dex a lot of specials, and it is really easy to get backed up by that. So you really want to pay attention to your spacing in this, and that means hitting block a lot. So Massacre is very good for that, because hitting block a lot is exactly how you want to play him for this fight anyway. Now, I do want to address one thing that I do not do at all in this fight that you probably can do, and that is be really aggressive, hit into his block, bait the special, and try and thread the needle and get in a big special 2 into his block, because that would do a lot of damage very quickly and probably would make the fight significantly easier. However, Plagued Mind was something I just didn't really want to deal with there. The other thing I was worried about was that in doing so, in being that aggressive and hitting him that many times and building up my power, if I was wrong about getting to the special 2, then I might find myself in a situation where I had no power left, and I hadn't knocked him down, because remember, throwing the special 2 into his block does not count as knocking him down with a special or striking him with a special, and so it won't remove those surge charges, and then all of a sudden he has all of this power to throw back at me. So I just didn't mess with that. I'm sure there are going to be faster takedowns with Massacre that lean into that, but I decided to play it safe. Now, the other thing about this fight, kind of like with the Crossbones fight, it gets easier as it goes. Because watch what happens here, now that Blade is under 70%. When we hit into his block, he's going to consume power to heal. And now at first you might go, oh, well, we don't want him to heal, right? Especially while destructive feedback is up. It's really going to look like you're not controlling the heal at all. But Massacre has enough debuffs that you're really limiting that healing if you have any points in the Despair Mastery, which I always do. See there, it's only 300 instead of like 1200 per tick. And the other thing is that draining his power, even at the cost of giving him some extra health, can often take him down below a bar and make it much easier for you to get to a bar of power before he does, which allows you to turn those surge charges, the pink icons, into damage instead of danger, which is what they are if he throws a special with them up, right? Additionally, you don't want to be afraid of parrying or blocking when destructive feedback is not up. When it's on cooldown, remember that that is something you can do in this game. I don't do it a lot, and honestly, you will see in this fight, there are some times where I go for intercepts that do not need to be intercepts, just because I am in that mindset of don't block. But the more that you can kind of switch that on and off for yourself, okay, it's okay to block right now, it's not okay to block right now, the more fluid this fight will feel for you. Additionally, I encourage you with his special 1 decks to try and be deliberate. Try and only dash back as much as you need to, because if you just spam it and you go, oh god, I need to get out of the way, you're probably going to get hit. If you can manage as much as possible, you will see a few times I do use 4 or 5 dexes if I'm not confident on the spacing. But as much as possible, just use 3 dexes for this. There's the initial physical hit, and then there is, see there I mess up on destructive feedback, that light attack really caused me problems in my attempts. But there's the initial sword swipe, and then there are the 2 shuriken. And you only need to dex for each one. The way I think about it is the sword swipe, you just kind of have to be instinctual. As soon as he goes into the animation, you dash back. But then the shuriken, really look at the projectiles and try to only dex as they get close to you. You see right there, we were able to hit into him and build power because we're ignited, but we didn't push him to his second bar of power because he was trying to heal off it. Now here we don't have any debuffs on him, and so he is healing fully when we hit into him, but that's honestly okay. It's worth it for controlling the fight. It gets us to another special, and that is going to translate into a good amount of damage when destructive feedback is over. Hit into his block here, he doesn't heal that much, but he does use all the power. You can see how this is going well. And while Massacre is particularly well poised out of the various characters that fulfill objectives for this same basic strategy of hitting into block, paying a lot of attention to spacing, being very deliberate, with your special 1 evade, and throwing specials when you can is, I think, very important. As is, in case I just didn't say it clearly enough, part of spacing is hitting into his block even when it heals him. I think that that is very, very important to doing this fight cleanly. So this is going to be a solo. I believe the next special 1 I throw might even be it, because we're getting down into the range where I will soon have more health than him, and so Deep Wounds does that direct damage when we apply bleeds, and that really helps. If it's not this one, it's the next one. But I'm just going to talk through, for the other objectives, I'm planning on probably using my Captain America Infinity War for the Avengers one. I might try Sigil Witch. I've heard both of those work very well. I would recommend those. I'm sure there will be videos out on it soon. I will probably post one of those. For Dimensional Beings, that one's just going to stink. I will probably use Cosmic Ghost Rider, and I will probably revive for that one, honestly. I have 3 or 4 revives and a bunch of potions expiring in the next 18 hours, and so I'm not terribly fussed about getting a perfect fight against Blade when most of my abilities don't work, which is just going to be true for any of the Dimensional Being ones. But I've also heard Hood works well. I could try that. I don't have Iron Man Infinity War, but I've heard he works very well for the Avengers objective. If you have a highly ranked Black Widow Deadly Origin, she satisfies both Mercenary and Avengers, and I've heard she's great for that. I've heard Sabretooth and Hitmonkey are quite good for Mercenary as well. Whoever you end up using, good luck, and good luck with the inputs in the AI. This is a very punishing fight if anything goes wrong. Like I said, that bleed damage is no joke. But I meant what I said at the beginning. Almost anyone can do it. So have some patience, and good hunting. And I will say, if at any point in this video you were surprised or confused by something that was happening with Massacre, then keep an eye out for my guide on him. That is my plan for the next one of these. I would love to get it out tomorrow or Friday, but, you know, I'm still not at 100%, so bear with me on that, and I will catch y'all then. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and take care.